Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the show that we usually do at 9 a.m. straight after the game. We couldn't do it today because Geo was away in Scotland. Geo, let's just leave the match for a second because, my lord, there's not that much to talk about. How was Scotland?
Beautiful. Didn't want to come
Yes.
home. Went up to see family at the weekend and then stayed around Loch Lomond. Not at Loch Lomond, can't afford it. Just a little bit away from Loch Lomond for Hogmanay for the last couple of nights and 3 nights. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Love that. Love that. They have began roadworks outside my house again. So, thankfully, next 9 a.m. it's going to be very noisy outside. It's going to be very noisy outside. It's going to be a vibe. But yeah, the match, it wasn't half boring. It was It was two teams who had a lot of people injured and missing, you know?
Yeah, but that should, before the game, I was thinking this. I was obviously they've got a lot of players out and they've had all season, to be fair. I think it's gone under the radar. There's a lot of talk about how Newcastle have got a big injury list, but Brighton have had one all season. But yesterday I was thinking, surely, the fringe players from both sides now, you've got to up your game. You've got to try and take this opportunity. And I would argue that Brighton actually had a slight advantage of having the players out that they did because the fringe players have been playing quite a lot this season, if that makes sense. So actually, those players have actually got game time and a bit of form and a bit of momentum, whereas our sort of reserve players like Ben Johnson had his first Premier League start. From memory, I could be wrong, Brighton didn't have a player making his first Premier League start yesterday because they've been in and out of the team all season. Yeah. Some force, some rotation, some days they'll be using them from the bench and whatnot. So I'd suggest that gives them a slight advantage in that regard. But I was hoping for two sides, almost with nothing to lose to some extent. But actually what we got was two sides playing like they had a lot to lose, which is pretty bizarre for match day 20 of the Premier League when they're both comfortably in the top 10 of the table as well and nothing to worry about. So I was a bit naive in that hope, but I was hoping maybe Brighton's way of playing would suit us but also force us to attack them a little bit, but nevertheless that's not what we got.
No, I think I think both teams played sort of how I would expect us to play. I think Brighton were a lot more open, had a lot of possession. They felt like a team who were also a little bit scared after what happened to them with us, and also the last 10 minutes against Tottenham when they conceded 2, or last 10, 20 minutes, however much it was when they conceded 2. They felt like a team who were a little bit they had a bit of trepidation about them because they were coming at us. They did have a lot of possession, but they seemed very, very happy to, when there was a little bit of resistance, go pass all the way back, even all the way back to the goalkeeper if necessary, just to try and drag us out of position to try and then create some spaces. And I think both teams sort of played how I expected to. I think from a West Ham perspective, it underlines just why a lot of the time we use the 11 players we use, or the slightly more than that sometimes, but you know what I mean. I think it was just a game where, because obviously the big thing is Kudus and Paqueta are missing. They're the two huge ones. They're obviously the two massive misses. And when I did the preview of Gonzo, it was sort of a case of, look, if they play, then we'll probably win this game. But if they're not going to play, it's going to be a long night. It's going to be a long night. But even if you go past that, neither of our first choice centre backs available, our first choice right back not available. This was pretty much, half of our first 11, and then the rest of it was made up for it. And whereas Mavropanos and Ogbonna, I thought put in again good performances. Johnson, I thought put in another good performance I was happy with. That front line, you just look at it and you think, wow. When you do have Ben Rama and Fornells on the pitch instead of Kudus and Paqueta, it's just a completely different side, isn't it?
Yeah, but we were expecting that. We got a bit of an indication. It depends how people think how Ben Rama played in the previous game, because a lot of people, against Arsenal, I thought Ben Rama was poor, and the drop off from Paqueta to Ben Rama was significant. But I've seen he had a real mix. He was like the Rebels player. There's always a Rebels player, isn't there, Charlie? Where it's a mixed bag of opinions, right? I've just made that up, and we'll keep that.
I like it.
The Rebels player from now on. The opinions. Some think he had a bad game, some think he had a good game, and there was a lot in the middle as well. Whereas everybody was in agreement. Kudus had a good game, and so on and so forth. But Ben Rama was the Rebels player, but I thought he was particularly poor against Arsenal. So I thought the drop off from Paqueta and Ben Rama was there to see in that game when the other 10 were playing really well. Benrahma, I felt, was still struggling to impact the game. I thought, well, you're not really going to get a better opportunity. Granted, opposition was tough in the sense it was Arsenal, and most of his duty was to defend. But then when you take Kudus out and put Fanals in, who's also going to see a significant drop off in performance. So we've just seen two sort of declines on either flank. We were always going to struggle last night. I was hoping he was going to throw a curveball. I was expecting Benrahma and Fanals, and I was just thinking, please just do something that we're not really expecting. But truth be told, I don't really know what that was. Because I knew he wasn't going to put Bowen on the right and then put Mubama up front, but saying that Mubama again failed to impress with his cameo. So I was thinking maybe he goes Marshall and Mubama to almost introduce a partnership rather than one player, bring in an established pairing, which can sometimes work. Because I think you're maybe seeing that with Mavropanos and Ogbonna now, who played a few games together at the Europa League. I think you're now seeing that brought into the Premier League. But I have a confession for you, Charlie.
Drop it, go on.
I fell asleep during the game.
I did wonder. Before we went live, went, yeah, no, it's good. I've seen the whole match now, which is a very weird way of wording it. Now that makes sense. That makes sense.
I mean, before we get into the breakdown, I think there's 3 parts. But before we get on to that, in my defence, let me add a bit of context. It was dark. Outside, it was dark. There was a big bay window. I was beside a body of water, so there was a big bay window. It was dark outside. I didn't even put the blinds down because nobody could see in the window. So it was dark. The room was cozy. I was pretty tired. I had a busy day, and there was a recliner sofa, so I was comfy watching the game.
Sure,
I got to about.
Sure.
I remember it being half time, but I don't remember the second half starting. I woke up at like 1 a.m. And I was like, "Oh, right, okay, everybody's seen half of it." Because Gonza said, "Oh, let's do player rating. Send me your bit, and I'll intertwine it with mine for patrons." So I had to say to him, "Sorry, I can't do it. I've not seen the second half, but I watched it on the way home. I had a 4-hour car journey, so I've been able to get to the second half now, and kind of glad I fell asleep because if I hadn't fell asleep at that point, I would have in the second half." But this is where it leads on to the breaking down the game into sort of 3 elements, which is, first of all, you've got ultimately what matters at the end of the day is the result. And I think it's a good point, Charlie. I think a draw against a sort of top 10 rival, potential European rival, when you're missing those players, and we're missing our first choice centre-backs and our first choice left winger and the first choice right winger. There's 4 first choice players out. Soufal as well. So 5 players were missing from the starting 11. David Moyes is starting 11. 5 players were missing. That's significant. Half the outfielders are gone. I think a point is a really good one. Yes, Brighton were missing players, but like I said, I do think those players have more from this season than what ours do. Yeah, okay, that is on David Moyes, but we're discussing the game rather than the season itself. Yeah. So I think it's a really good point. Another clean sheet, which is our issue this season has been keeping clean sheets. It's not been scoring goals. We're fine at that. It's keeping them out. We're sort of sorted that, weirdly enough, by bringing in Ogbonna Mafanos. How that works, I don't know. So I think 4 points from Brighton over the season is brilliant. I think to beat Man United, beat Arsenal, beat Spurs, draw against Brighton in a short space of time is a fantastic return. Actually, we're sitting pretty in the league. I was really happy with the result. So that's the first bit. That's the positives. Yeah. And then we've got the negatives, which is if some don't understand why they want Moyes sacked, watch that game. I think that would tell you why some people want Moyes to go at the end of the season. It was boring.
Yeah.
And yes, we were missing players, so were Brighton, and we barely laid a glove on them.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where the reaction to the game has been exactly what I would expect the reaction to the game has been, because that is the perfect encapsulation of Moyes. And in a sense, that means no one will change their mind either way. It wasn't some resounding victory that then people who are Moyes in then look at Moyes out and then go, well, why aren't you happy by this or that? And then it's not a resounding defeat when the Moyes out people then look at the Moyes in people and go, see, this is what we're talking about. Yeah. It's just the perfect encapsulation of an unbelievably boring 0-0 draw, where it's just it's no one's ever going to change their mind after it. We're just going to look at it.
Decent enough result, but the entertainment factor was non-existent. It was dull. Yeah. It's a good result, and it gives the people that want Moyes to stay gives them reasons as to why Moyes should stay, which is, hey, this is a good result. Look where we are in the league. And like you said, the ones that want Moyes gone, it gives good reasons there, which is look how boring that was. We could have won that game. We didn't even try and win that game. As the game went on, I got more and more nervous that Brighton were going to pinch it. The last 10, 15 minutes, they were all over us. And at times, I thought we played okay at times, Charlie. It's not like we sat back for 90 minutes. I thought we had one or two half chances, not many, but one or two. And I think Brighton had better and more chances than we did. But ultimately, we got what we want out of it. And it's a funny old game. Yeah, good result. But just the way we get there is not ideal. Like I always go back to Arteta on the Arsenal documentary when he had to change his mind with what Lacazette was said. He had his whiteboard out and he said, "What's more important, the journey or the destination, guys? Lacazette, what's more important?" And Lacazette said the journey, and then Arteta had to sort of make up as to why the journey was more important. But you could tell he wanted to say destination, but because Lacazette said journey, he sort of had to. But this is. I almost find Arteta's theory applicable here, which is more important because if it's a destination, then Moyes arguably is going the right way. But if it is the journey part you're interested in, it's a very boring car journey. It's like doing what I've just done today with nothing.
Yeah,
we had some quizzes on the podcast. We had some bangers. We had some right belters in the car today. Bit of ultra beat, pretty green eyes.
Oh, okay. All right. We're talking. We're talking.
Get lively in the motor,
I respect it. I think you're 100% correct when you look at it. I mean, obviously, one of the interesting points from it is that he brought on Mubama. I do think that's genuinely interesting because Danny Ings was sat there. When we took at half time, I was sitting here and watch along, and we were talking about it. And me and a couple other people were going, yeah, I think get Mubama on, get Bowen, drop him back into that right wing position where he's more useful. You get a more mobile striker up front, someone who's a bit more natural to that position, can maybe shift them around a little bit. Let's try creating something a little bit more. Who does that leave on the left? We don't know yet, but I feel like that's the thing to do. But saying all of that, I would then qualify it with. But everyone get ready because Danny Ings is 100% going to come on. Like, this is what's going to happen. That we will say this and he'll do that, but it will be Danny Ings who's the one who comes on, and then we'll all go, well, that's that game over and done with me primarily, right? I almost think about it. Because I was thinking about it earlier today with the whole Kehrer going to Monaco thing in the background happening. I almost thought it was interesting when Johnson played the other day instead of Kehrer, and thinking, Mubama now getting the game time ahead of Danny Ings, I think is a huge difference. Like, don't get me wrong, don't think he covered himself in glory yesterday, Mubama, right? I'm not saying he was bad. I'm just saying there was nothing going on for him really at all. He was there was no service. There was just nothing going on at all. He just wasn't. It doesn't matter unless you've got, I don't know, name a striker who can take the ball from your own half and then dribble past the entire world and score. Messi.
Maybe not the scoring part, but I think Bowen's starting to do a really good job of it, truth be told. I think
he's doing a better job. Yeah,
I think this is what I was trying to say the last time we did this or the time before about how Bowen's making it his own role. I saw evidence of that against Brighton. We're whizzing it into Bowen's feet now. We know with Antonio, you can't whiz it. Let's be honest, you can't whiz the ball into Antonio's feet, right? Because his first touch isn't good enough. It's not. The best thing to do for Antonio is give him like a physical battle, whether it's speed or whether it's strength. Give him something that actually you take away like your football ability to something. It almost becomes an athletic fight because you'll win that a lot of the time against it, and he'll win his free kicks. He'll get his throw-ins up the pitch, and he'll be able to race and barge. Mm-hmm. But Bowen can't do that, and I think when Bowen first played up front, we were guilty of maybe playing the way that Antonio, like as if Antonio was up front, but I think we've adapted that now. I don't think we boot the ball at him anymore. I do feel like we fizz it into his feet quite a lot, and he's bloody good, Bowen, at actually dropping a yard off the centre back and taking a really good first touch. And then the second one depends on what the scenario is, whether he can turn, he can play outside, he needs to hold up a bit more. And when Mubama come on, I think there was a couple of occasions we whizzed it into his feet, and his first touch wasn't good enough, Charlie. His second touch was a tackle or an attempt at one. So it's but there's a long way to go, and this is where when he comes on, I don't write off the last 20 minutes. When Mubama comes on, I don't write it off, but I'm very much like no expectations, which is anything good he does, great. I'll celebrate it. Anything bad he does, I'm willing to ignore for a little while because he's just a young lad trying to make his way in the Premier League. Although I am still judging him, just not as harshly as I would a more experienced player coming in, like Danny Ings. My expectations from Ings and Mubama is completely different, which is I expect Ings to use his experience. I expect him to be one very comfortable on that pitch, whereas Mubama, I've got a lot more leeway with. So he's not impressed me yet. However, I'm not bothered. I'm not bothered by the fact he's not impressed me yet.
Yeah, and I think there's also the difference between Danny Ings was someone we went out and bought, whereas Mubama's coming through the youth academy. Obviously youth academy players, you influence them, you teach them how to play, you coach them, all of that stuff. But it's very different from going, I have all the strikers in the world in front of me that are available. Which one am I going to buy? That guy. It's very different to judging that guy and coming in and not making it work than going, right, here's a youth player who's not made it happen yet. And Stephen says, do you think that Mubama is not a Moyes type striker then? No, I still think he has everything there to make it work. It's just a case of it's not happening for him yet. And sometimes that happens. I think what frustrates me a little bit is sometimes I feel like this season especially, but I think it happens sometimes, we forget sometimes players can just be out of form. Like sometimes a player comes in, he's just like, it's just not working for him right now. And maybe in 2 games' time, the exact same thing happens and it works for him.
I think the other difference is if Ings was to come on, not Bristol City. Who's our next league game? Is it Arsenal?
No, because we just played Arsenal.
No, we've got them again very soon.
Do we? I'll have a look. I can't.
Anyway, whoever the next league game is, if Ings was to come on and score, it doesn't really change anything other than the fact that Dan Ings has scored a goal. It probably doesn't change much for him. Doesn't really change much for his future at West Ham. But Mubama gets the exact same goal. The difference is significant. Thank you, Sheffield United. There you go. That's the perfect game, actually.
Yeah.
To demonstrate this. If Ings come on and scores against Sheffield United, we shrug and go, thanks for that, Danny. Doesn't really change much. But if Mubama gets it, suddenly it's like, hello, now what's this going to do to Mubama? Is his confidence going to go through the roof? Is he going to come on the next game with his chest puffed out? Because although he didn't score against Burnley, he was heavily involved in the goal. And I felt like you could see the confidence oozing out of him for the remainder of the game. He was making good runs. He looked stronger. He looked 10 foot tall on the pitch after that moment. Mubama needs a moment. Once he gets his moment, you might see a different player because his confidence must be pretty minimal at the minute. Because while he's involved in the first team, he's not as involved as he has been at the under 21. So he's not actually scoring week out. Last season, he was scoring week in, week out, albeit for the under 18s and under 21s. But his confidence was kept high. His momentum was going, just in a different team. So when he came into the senior team, he'd scored last week, but now that's been taken away from him because he's not important part, but because he's a mainstay in the first team now, he doesn't have that momentum and confidence that he's gaining elsewhere at the club. So he just needs a moment, and then I'm hoping that could see him step up another level just to sort of adequate striker in the team. And it's a slow process with him.
Yeah, I mean, Covenant's saying Mubama needs a run of at least 6 consecutive games, not a few minutes, and even then some squad matches. I think it's just coming on consistently, just getting into the game. Because I felt like, as bad as Ben Rama was against Arsenal, and don't get me wrong, I'm not about to say he played well, but what I will say is I think he was god awful when he first came on, and in the second half he was just poor. But when he first came on, he looked completely lost, right? Watch Ben Rama, he doesn't know what his positioning is, he's running around, he looks like a little bit like a headless chicken, right? Just sort of moving here, there, and everywhere. And it is quite difficult, as much as we do play a very as much as David Moyes is a very systems-oriented manager. I say that like every manager in the world at this point isn't a sort of systems-oriented manager. You'd be hard-pressed not to find one, right? But as much as we do that and you train that, when you come on in the middle of a game state, it can be quite difficult. And there was a moment during the second half after he came on where I can't remember who it was. Who was it in the live chat? I think it might have been Trini. This isn't to drag you, by the way, at all, Trini. But was saying, why is Mubama so deep? Like, what are we doing? Why is he so deep? And I think it is just because you're looking around, you're like, what the hell am I doing? And also in a game like yesterday, realistically, we were finding it really hard to get out of our box at all towards that end of the match. I don't mind him dropping deep and trying to get in, but it is that sort of judgment call where you're on the pitch where you go, right, what am I going to do in this moment? I'm playing in the first team. I'm playing for David Moyes as opposed to the youth team manager. I'm playing amongst different players. What am I going to do here? And it's that stuff that just comes instinctively after playing game after game after game, even if it is only 20 minutes at the end of games. But it's that kind of instinctive thing where you know where to do, where you're not catching yourself going, should I be deeper? Should I be here? You just know, and then you go about your sort of your business. I have faith that it will. I still have the faith that it will come good. Like you say, for me, I've not been impressed, but I've been impressed enough previously and have seen what he can do enough to go, I think he suits this system. It's just going to be a case of making it work. Because again, he's used to playing with other different players. He's used to playing a different system. It's just one of these things, you know. But I think it was interesting for him to get the shout over Danny Ings, because it does sort of feel. I think it just feels notable because it's been so non-existent previously. You
It's been
know,
a while since we've seen Ings, though. Even some games we have, he's come on with Mubama in a lot of the games too.
Yeah.
So it does feel like there's a change there from David Moyes, and I think the big difference between the two of Mubama and Ings is one's worth sticking with. I mean, it ain't Danny Ings.
That's true. That's very true. And I found it interesting with the other youth players on the bench as well. I mean, yeah, but you're seeing a few of them like Orford, Casey, Mubama. This isn't something you.
I'm pleased Orford's
usually he'd
on
get.
it.
Yeah, I mean, I like Casey was a case example of someone who sort of had to. Like, don't get me wrong, David Moyes would find a way of not doing it, and when who was it who went down? When Ben Johnson went down, Cresswell started warming up. In my head, I'm like, well, that just means Mavropanos right back, and
The
then
thing
Cresswell
is,
comes in as
what I
number
will
centre
say
back,
about that though is, I get it because it was so late in the game as well. It was like the 88th minute or something.
Oh yeah.
I think it's a huge call put on a defender, not a striker. Put on a young defender in a game where you're sort of defending and you're inviting pressure on. So basically, you cannot afford to make a mistake. You make a mistake, you lose us the game. Essentially, that is what's at stake. That's the brutal part of it. Whereas a striker. Had to say we brought on Carlin Marshall. I know he was on the bench, but just bear with me. How we brought him on for finals, and he made an error where he gets put through on one, he blazes it over the bar. He prevents us possibly winning the game, but what he doesn't do is cost us at the other end. Whereas I think the stakes are higher bringing on a defender. So I get why Cresswell was the one he would have opted for. And truth be told, I would have been incredibly nervous for Casey coming off the bench in that scenario. I was pleased to see it was Cresswell. Granted, he didn't come on in the end, but I just think the situation there, I thought, no, this is too much for a young lad potentially.
Yeah, and I understand why people are comparing it to Brighton with their youth players. For example, Peter, saying if Orford was at Brighton, he would have got more game time. No, Brighton didn't even have an academy 10 years ago. Like, Brighton are a slightly different thing, and they're only just beginning to see players now who they're sort of consistently playing from the academy. Van Heck's one of them, for example. When I spoke to Joe on the opposition preview earlier in the week, he mentioned like Van Heck coming through and like the sort of players at Brighton coming through who are sort of making it. Hinchelwood's the other one, the main one who's coming through and actually making it now. It's a bit difficult. Like, I know everyone points at Evan Ferguson. They bought Evan Ferguson from somewhere. Don't get me wrong, he was still incredibly young when they bought him. It's a bit like when we sign Patrick Kelly or someone like that, I guess, from Ireland, and they're playing sort of senior football in Ireland, and then we get them and we lob them in the youth academy for a bit. But it is one of those things. I do have a little bit more confidence about it, but we'll see what happens. I mean, again, it's picking at straws because it was just such an unbelievably boring game. Like there really isn't much to say. I mean, I felt like we defended well. I felt like we defended quite well, actually. It got worse as the game went on. We got a little bit more scared as the game came on. We got it didn't work as well, but especially in that first. I thought, if anything, I thought in the first half you could have made an argument we were maybe the better side. Like, I thought we defended better than them, and
I think
thought
our
we
game
had the
plan
better
worked
chances.
better in the first half than theirs. In the sense of what we wanted to do. I think Moyes would have been very happy at half time, which was we limited them. But saying that, they still had the best chance of the half with Pascal Gross's header.
Yes,
that was possibly the best chance of the game, really. And then
James Milner rolling back the years.
And then Pedro's run where he took on four players. Ariola made a couple of good saves. Some of them were, I don't think he knew too much about it, but it doesn't really matter. He still made the save at the end of the day. And it's the second time we played Brighton that I feel like our goalkeeper's man of match. Which tells a story, I think. Well, she got 4 points, but I think the keeper has possibly been man of match in both games.
Side note, Ariola's kicking is awful. His long
Well,
kicking is so like, I mean, he doesn't have much to aim at, but my God, like every time he has the ball at his feet and we're playing it around, I'm loving it. I'm loving a bit of Areola, when they're taking shots and he's there and he's making these reflex saves, I'm loving it. When he just has a moment and he's right, who am I going to pick out up front? I'm like, this is going out for a throw in, or they're just winning the ball, but he's rubbish at it. Like, I like Areola a lot, but I'm just like, man,
he
every
throws
time it
sometimes.
happens.
He throws it to the halfway line sometimes because I think he knows his kicking's not the greatest, but it could be worse.
I prefer him to do it.
It could be worse. So he could have a hairline like Mo Salah that got exposed other night.
You'd hate to see it.
I can't talk, Charlie. Mine's getting worse now, and every month and stuff. But I got a bit of a confidence boost when I saw Mo Salah's when the wind blew his afro back. Honestly, that afro's doing a better cover up than the government selling PPE during COVID.
5,000 WhatsApp messages to the barber deleted. Not interested. They've gone missing.
Mo Salah's haircuts, like we've lost 5,000 WhatsApp messages here. Nothing to see. I'm not hiding anything.
My girlfriend the other day, completely off track. My girlfriend the other day saw a picture of my granddad when he was like 80 and he had a full head of hair, and she literally went, "Oh, thank goodness." So we'll see. I think she's terrified. To be fair, I have a very big head.
I think my dad was grey in his 20s, so I'm doing all right, Charlie. I've made it beyond where the bar was set. I've made it beyond that. I'm just enjoying it while I got it.
Love that. Speaking about bars being set, I mean, I think we've like last couple of games. Obviously, we've done really well. I think we've got some good results. We played really well. This one a good result, but even if the performance wasn't quite there, I'm pretty confident going into the rest of sort of the season. We have a little bit of a time off from the league now, where we can sort of reassess. And I feel like, obviously, like I say, the weaknesses have sort of somewhat been exposed with Fornals and Ben Rama, and just basically the drop off from. But really, it's the drop off from Paqueta and Kudus. It's almost not an insult to Ben Rama or Fornals. It's almost just like, well, yeah, but look at these two. Look how one of them starts for Brazil, one of them starts for Ghana, sort of thing.
The thing is, though, most teams would miss the two main attacking players. We've got three. You can order them however you wish. I would go Bowen, Kudus, Paqueta in that order personally, but I get. I'm not going to debate it. If someone says, "Oh no, mine's Paqueta and Bowen, Kudus," I get it. I'm not that strongly opinionated, but you're missing two of your front three. That would be like Arsenal missing, Odegaard and Saka and struggling a little bit. They're going to struggle a bit. When Spurs are missing Maddison and Son, they're going to notice a drop off. Even though they've still got Kulusevski and Richarlison, they're going to notice a bit of a drop off. Hell, you look at Man City without De Bruyne and Alan. They're a bit sketchy at the minute, and this is a team that's got the world's best players. You go to Liverpool, you take away. I mean, to be fair, they've actually got plenty of options. But I was going to say, we take out Jota, because I think Jota's better than Gakpo, Diaz, and Nunez. You take out Jota and Salah, and it's like you'll notice a bit of a difference. Actually, Man United actually can leave them all in, and they're still pretty crap. But most teams, you take out their two attacking threats, and there's a bit of a drop off. So I'm not concerned about that. It's just what I think disappointed me the most, Charlie, was that Kudus is away for a month, right? Previously, if you've come in, someone's out for a game. So regardless of what you do in that game, you're out the team for the next one, right? Actually, it's different for the Brighton game. It was different because there's a space for the next month minimum up for grabs. You put in 3 or 4 good performances. You just don't know. When Antonio got injured, he'd have probably been thinking, I'll get fixed up and I'll go straight back in that 11. Well, he's not now. He's lost his shirt. He was the number 9, got injured. He's now on the bench because Kudus has taken that opportunity. There was a chance there for Fornals. There was a chance there for Said Benrahma. And I was just a bit disappointed there wasn't more determination from them. Are they happy at West Ham? No, but you know what? Where's just like pride in yourself? Where's like this is what frustrates me when people say they're unhappy, they don't like the manager. I get it, right? I do get it. Where's like your pride? Where's your determination to be a good footballer, regardless of who your manager is or what shirt you're wearing? Like, what's stopping you wanting to be the best? And I don't know, just a bit disappointed by those two last night. Like Ben Johnson, he's come in, and I feel like he's
taking his
I think Ben
opportunity. Yeah,
Johnson's come in
yeah.
and feeling going, I've got a chance here. I'm going to take this. Got in last night ahead of Sufa. I think he was good. Not 10 out of 10, but I think he was solid. Perhaps not very exciting and a little bit, plain Jane, but he was solid.
I think you see the difference between him and Sufal going forward. I think that's the main difference there. Like Ben Johnson, I always felt like I was like, "God, just push it a bit further," because you see when we get and I think Paqueta missing was obviously a big drop off for the build up. I think that also probably heavily affected Emerson. He wasn't as impactful in the game as we're used to seeing, and I think part of that is not having Paqueta there. But also when you have Paqueta there and we drag the entire team over to the left side because he's just standing there waiting for them to come and try and get the ball off him, then we hit those big crossfield diags, be it him, be it Aged, and you always see Sufal bombing forward. He's in acres of space. He picks up the ball, he drives it to Bailey, gets that in, and Ben Johnson doesn't quite have that. He might get that over time or whatever, but he doesn't quite have that, and that's the other big drop off. But actually, if you're just judging him from what he did as opposed to what other people would have done in his place, I agree with you. I think he did really well, and I think arguably he grabbed his opportunity way more than they did. I think it's just interesting to see what happens because I don't think there's really much we can do. I think you could put your money on a striker in terms of Ings or Mubama. Hopefully Mubama getting more game time and then Bowen dropping deep on the right hand side. That sort of sorts the problem a little bit because you do have that deeper dynamism. We've seen at times where Bowen's been playing up front recently and it has been going well because we have Kudus and we have Paqueta. We still have at times switched it around, put Bowen in that position. Sometimes Kudus comes across into the 10, sometimes he's up front briefly or whatever happens. And you see all of a sudden he grabs the ball and he's able to take people on, he's able to do those usual things he does. I think that somewhat solves that issue. We still have the problem on the left-hand side, but, we're going to have problems because you just have people dropping out. And I think Mavropanos is another one, maybe not, hasn't grasped the opportunity maybe as much as Ben Johnson has, but I thought he's been putting in.
He's done it more, Charlie. I've been really impressed with him.
That's what I was going to say. I've been really impressed with him. I don't think he's like, I don't know. Maybe grasp it's in a different way of wording it, but I've been really impressed. I thought the shot that Bowen took that ended up being offside but hit off the post or whatever, that moment where he just clicks the ball and we're doing the horseshoe, right? You work your way all the way up one side of the pitch, it doesn't quite work, you go all the way back down to the midfielders, centre back, midfielder, up to the other side, it doesn't work, when we were doing the horseshoe, it got to him and he stopped and just went, no, pings it straight into Souček in the middle, and it's just like that little bit of passing, that bit of intelligence that usually we don't have, where he just goes bam, 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 and makes that sort of stuff happen.
We've got a game tomorrow. All the centre-backs are fit. They're all playing the way they have been the last month. Who are you picking? Put two.
I mean, Mavropanos is in there. Yeah. Certain. I don't know who the other one would be.
Probably Zuma for me, because I think he's best centre-back, and I thought they played really well against Man U.
Probably. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, probably Zuma. It probably would be Zuma.
But honestly, this is my point. I think Mavropanos is edged ahead in the pecking order now. I think he's...
I think if everyone's fit and doing well, I think you still probably go. I would still probably go with Zuma and Aged, but I take your point. I don't think you're wrong. Because we're living in a dream world where Aged is playing quite well at the moment. Where I don't think he's playing particularly badly, but he's not exactly. Well, first of all, he's not available, so it really makes no difference. But I don't think he's there.
James has said it, and Stephen said it, and there were only two people that give a pairing. To be fair, but they're both on their team, Geo, for this one, Walsh. Our child says Mavropanos has grabbed it, but he's sucked into the negativity. The other thing I like about Mavropanos, which is something I thought that's something we lack a little bit at times, is he will just grab the ball and run with it. That's the one thing I like our midfield at the moment. I don't think it's perfect, but I like it. But I don't think it's far from perfect. But we are missing that guy like Declan Rice who will just grab the ball and just sprint with it forward. Who's just going to go, right, we're progressing now. And Mavropanos does have that a little bit in him. Don't get me wrong, it does terrify me every time he does it. Especially if we're up against a team who have a fast counter-attack and he starts wandering up the pitch. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Bro, stop. But I do quite like that. Just that grasping it and going, no, we're moving forward. That's something I think, as much as I like ours, like, I love, for example, Edson Alvarez, adore him. Thought he had another good game, but adore him. He's not exactly going to grasp the ball and run with it, I don't want him to.
Exactly. I don't want him to. Thomas Souček, another guy who's not going to do that. Another person who I don't want to, because I fear for my life if Thomas Souček started dribbling with the ball. James Ward-Prowse doesn't do that, so sometimes you need a bit of that, and he does do that, which I like. I don't know. I just like Mavropanos. We'll see how it goes, but that's a decent one, and that's sort of the vibe I'm hoping for with Kara going. I'm hoping for someone like Mavropanos who, we're not looking at someone who's going to come in and start every game, but someone who has a little bit about them that we need and can make it work. I'm not going right. We need another first choice centre back right now. I'm hoping it's going to be someone like him who can come in and prove themselves over time. That's what I'm hoping for. I mean, we'll see. Kara hasn't quite left yet, so maybe I shouldn't be planning and talking about what we need just yet. But because it might be soon. But yeah, is there any other big points you want to make about the game?
No, I need to go and unpack now.
Yes,
I try to get it done before the darts.
Of course, with the definitely 16-year-old in the final.
Yeah, 16-year-old with the worst hairline in Mo Salah.
I mean, I wasn't gonna say. Everyone on Twitter has been going on about this 60. I don't I don't really follow
watch
the darts.
It tonight, Charles. Just watch the darts tonight, right? Just put it on. You'll get it. You'll get it. The finals, like the quarterfinal onwards, are always really good. There's usually good games throughout the earlier stages, but usually the favourites win quite comfortably. But when you get to like the quarters onwards, it's some really good ones. Cross was 4-0 down the other day and won 5-4. Unbelievable. It was first to 5 to win, and Cross was 4-0 down. So I was like, oh, well, it's done now. Went off for a break, came back on, bam, 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 1-5-4.
I do appreciate they've taken a lot of their cues. They've taken the things that are good about wrestling, aka mad fans and entrances, and they're going, right, let's apply that to darts, and it's worked. To be fair, I love the crowd. I don't really understand. I don't get me wrong. I understand how darts works. I play darts. I get how the scoring works or whatever, but I don't necessarily understand when the 3 darts they throw are particularly great compared to the others. But I tell you what, that crowd let you know. And I'm here for it.
The referee tonight's a West Ham fan. His last ever. He's retiring.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
West Ham fan. So darts tonight, the referee at the final is a Hammers fan, and this is his last one. I think he bows out after tonight. So there you go.
So what time is it on?
West Ham.
8:15, did you say?
What?
8:15. Is that what time it was on?
Yeah. I think it's 8:50. The program will start before it, but I think it's 8:15. It gets going. But
well, maybe I will see it. But there we go, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back at 9 a.m. after the game at the weekend, which I'll be tired for, but we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, a big win, progressing in an FA Cup. But until then, Geo will be back now, so normal services resumed. You don't have to enjoy my randomness. You can actually have good videos once, and that'll be back tomorrow once. But thank you, everyone. Appreciate you all for watching. Subscribe, like the video, all that good stuff, and we'll see you next time. Cheers, everyone. Bye.